Osai. And like I said before we went on a break, like I said earlier, we're going to be having a conversation. We'll be looking at discipline versus punishment. This has been an ongoing conversation for the longest time. You know, some people believe in soft parenting and, you know, treating children with soft hand. And then there are people who say, spare the rod and spoil the child. If you don't punish them, if you don't flog them, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, they are not going to, you know, they will not turn out well. And we also see these things in school too. There are schools that flogging has been banned. We've seen the whole dynamic and we just don't even know which one works and which doesn't work. So we're going to be having that conversation, and joining us this morning is Ndidi Duru, the founder, Talk2Solve. Welcome, Ma.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You look very beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we get into the conversation, just a little bit about Talk2Solve. What's it about?
Okay, basically what we do is manage deviant behaviors in school. We create awareness. We go from school to school, communities, villages, you know, churches, addressing young people on behaviors that are unacceptable. Sometimes we talk about bullying, peer pressure, truancy, just anything you can think of that can destroy the future of a child. Those are the things we create awareness on.
Wow, that is beautiful. I haven't heard of this before. You know, you just an independent body going to different schools, at addressing deviant behaviors and creating awareness. That is really beautiful. I mean, perfect guest for this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now get into it. The first question I want to ask you is to please, can you help us differentiate between discipline and punishment? Let's start there.
Okay. So basically, punishment is also a form of discipline. Okay. But then there is negative discipline and positive discipline. Okay. Punishment has been adjudged to be negative punishment, a negative discipline. They believe that, or generally it is believed that punishment is a penalty for wrongdoing, and it is spontaneous, is reactive. Okay? You do something bad. Chidera, I said no noise in this house and you just made noise. Bah! You give a knock. So what have you done? It's discipline. You want Chidera to stop making noise. By knocking Chidera, what you have done is to give penalty for wrongdoing, because you've told Chidera, stop talking. If you talk, for every action, there is consequence. So the consequence for that noise is what? The knock. Okay? So it is meant to teach Chidera to stop talking. That is for punishment. Then when we talk about discipline actually, which is the positive discipline, it's a corrective measure. Okay? What it actually does is to guide you, to help you understand the consequences of your action, to help you take accountability, and to stop the possibility of doing that in the future. It's not reactive, it's proactive, and it is futuristic. So we're not just looking at you keeping quiet right now. We're looking at you understanding why you should be quiet, the consequences of not being quiet, what it does to you, what it does to others. So that's the difference. Why punishment is immediate, it's spontaneous, it's reactive. Sometimes the punishment you're given for a wrong behavior is unconnected with what you did. So I give you an instance. You're making noise in the classroom and your teacher walks in. SS1A, you've been making noise. All of you to the field. You are going to cut the grass from the left to the right. The grass you're cutting really doesn't have business.
Tell you anything about making noise.
So that's actually the difference. One is proactive, one is reactive, one is immediate, one is futuristic. One is guiding you towards understanding the consequences and possibly not doing it in the future. The other one is about stopping it at the moment.
That is quite deep.
Yes, very deep. So does it mean in essence, you're trying to say that punishment does not change behavior long term?
Okay, so punishment can actually change behavior depending on the individual. So there are some people you instill fear in and they don't do it again. You know, I can't talk, she's going to knock me. And when she sees you, she's not talking. She sees another teacher, she's not talking, because the assumption is everyone knocks for every talk. And then for some people, it's like, okay, you're just going to knock me. So here we go. And I'm back to my talking. Do you understand? For some people, the knock does not pass the message. I don't understand. Why do I have to keep quiet? What's the knock for? For them, it doesn't end anything. It doesn't solve. So sometimes these things have to do with individuals. The discipline is not flawless. Okay. It may be better than punishment, but sometimes punishment has its own advantages. Even though it has more disadvantages.
Honestly, I mean, I don't know why it feels so new. Like, this feels like a very fresh perspective to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's now making sense to me because back then when I was young, so there are certain things I do. First of all, as a kid, I felt highly misunderstood. Yeah. Especially by my immediate family. You know, maybe my siblings, and I was the last one. You know how last ones can be. We're amazing people, by the way.
Yeah.
So, so the thing is, we are bolder than every other person. Okay. We're more fearless than every other person. So I will tell you what even my elder sister will not tell you. Yeah. I will point out and so there's this thing about respect, being not speaking out, you know, not talking, you know. I had to learn it. I had to learn the positive side of it while growing, and I, you know, got the balance. But at the time when I was young, when I'm trying to communicate something, say something bad happened, and I'm saying this thing you see what happened. I'm trying to make you see what happened, and then you now get it wrong, and then you now beat me, or maybe say I was actually really wrong. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but then you flog me or you inflict pain on me. I used to sit down and I think to myself. I said, I would usually ask myself, is your intention to hurt me or to correct me? Yeah. I used to feel that way a lot. So now that you've mentioned this, it now feels like indeed punishment is actually to hurt the child. And it also makes sense to say that it now depends on the child. There are people who, for fear of hurt, would withdraw. And then there are others like us back then. We know they fear. We know they fear hurt. So we shall know that this is what is going. That's the most you can do.
To do and
I mean, it's such a vast dynamic that I think parents need to really understand. But now let's move on. Okay. So why do many schools still rely heavily on punishment? Okay.
Let's just say that traditionally, that's how we were raised. Okay. Our parents really didn't have the time. Listen, discipline involves a lot of hard work. How many parents have that time? Let me give you an instance of what I mean. I don't want anyone to be late in this class. As soon as I enter the class, everyone gets seated. If you're late, if I enter the class before you, you will stand outside and I'll flog you. And then you walk into the class. IK, Chelsea, why are you not here? All of you out. In fact, before you go out, come here, I will flog you. And you flog IK, and the class members are watching. You know, the cane, each one. The ones that are scared are like, oh my God, I will never come late. And the strong ones are like, well, like about 6 strokes, I can contain it, and that's fine. Okay? And then the weak ones cry and they go outside. I was just flogged. And the outside, the strong ones are like, waiting, no shaking. You understand? Now, what you don't know is, in some cases, you may have taught them that lateness is bad. But again, you can do better. Because sometimes when it is properly communicated, these students don't do badly. So you can say, Chelsea and Uzo, let me see you in the office. And they come, they sit down. Chelsea, do you know it is disrespectful to let me get into the class before you? It shows me that you're not interested in the studies. And may I ask, why are you uninterested? Could it be that I don't explain it very well? Could it be that you find it difficult appreciating what has been taught? Why do you not, do I come off as unfriendly? What's the problem? Is this a bad habit? Is this some form of peer pressure where they're telling you that you're baddest? What could be the
Okay.
problem? Let's talk about it. But there's no problem. It's just that I kind of hate maths. Oh, that's good. What do you hate about it? The calculation, the teacher, the teaching process. What makes you? Because I noticed you've been coming late. Okay, it's not a one-time thing. So tell me what the problem is. And he talks. In the process of having that conversation, you have understood, because behavior is a form of communication. That's what people don't know. So what has happened, if he's a habitual late goer, it could be escapist. There's something called escapism in children. Coming late means disenchantment. I don't like this class. I don't like my teacher. It's communication.
Okay.
Because it's habitual. So you can actually take that advantage to advise him. When you don't come early, I assume you don't value my presence. You don't want to learn. But now I know what the problem is. Okay? I'm going to work with you. In the meantime, there has to be consequences for every ill behavior.
I was waiting for that.
You came late, and as a deterrent to others, you will have to do something for me, okay? I will keep you outside. You will stand all through the lecture. Why am I keeping you outside? Because I want to teach you that it is not okay to come late to the class. So you will stand there. It's uncomfortable, but just know that the discomfort is for your own good. If I make you stand for 1 hour, next time you won't want to come late. And I also take my time to teach you math in a way you will understand.
Wow.
Now, this is what our parents don't have time for. Because the slap is a spiritual and a physical. What are we talking about? But I tell you the truth. If you can take these pains to talk to the student about this, especially the growing ones, you must have said a lot to the child. The child goes back, okay, understanding the reason for the consequences of his act. Recall you said, sometimes you were beaten. You didn't even understand what the beating was for. But now you know why this discipline came. Okay? Now you know what it causes, the impact of what you're doing. So what's going to happen? The next time you don't want to stay outside, she has addressed your fears, which is maths, not understanding maths. She has also addressed your character, which is escapism, when you should be around, and irresponsibility.
Yes.
So now you know better. You would advise yourself, self-regulation, self-discipline. Okay, I have to be in the class. Why? Because it looks like a slight to the other person, and I don't want to be insulted.
Wow. Discipline is so, like, say me then discipline me now. Like, I feel like doing something wrong now.
So that they'll sit down and talk to you.
If this is the way it's sweet.
No,
sounds really sweet.
This is somebody that understands this whole thing, and it takes time.
It's not easy to do this. I am talking, but I know that sometimes I lose it, and I'm on TV, so let me be.
This is where I want to come in. So, can discipline, the positive type of discipline, and punishment coexist?
Of course.
Yes, that's what she just explained.
Yes, like I'm asking, I've seen situations where I've heard parents say that if you leave, it's important to use the two at most, not really on the same time, but use the two where there are times you don't have to explain, just have to punish the child. Then later on, you can do the explanation, because it makes you come off as soft and they can take advantage of you. Does it happen?
I disagree with you. See, communication is everything. Communication is everything. If I sit down with my children or the children I teach or your nieces and all that, in the process of gisting with them, you're teaching them. Okay, we don't equip our children with social skills. For instance, if I sit down with them and they are gisting and one person is yelling, assuming they are playing with toys, and give me my toy. No, you give me. You can't be serious. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. What do you do at that moment? The African parents that we used to experience, we beat the two of you. Okay? But now that we are all aware, what do? You let them. Tell me this. When they are done, it could be like, okay, Chinasa, what have you achieved? I was going to take my door, blah, 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 blah. Can I ask two of you a question? Okay. Are there other means of resolving this other than yelling at each other? Make them take responsibility for it. Yes, I think so. What do you think went wrong here? I was forceful. Were you supposed to be forceful? No, I was not supposed to be. Did the yelling actually solve any problem? What did you notice the yelling did? I think it intensified our quarrel. Okay, so what do you think you would have done differently? Just say sorry and beg. Oh, beautiful. So that's how you solve problems. What have I done? You know, if it's in punishment, it means I have told you how to do things. Do you understand? I'm responsible for your decisions and actions. But in discipline, I give you the powers to take, I just guide you. Do you understand? I give you that power to take a decision and to understand the consequences without imposing it on you. So it's more like what the Bible calls reasoning with you. Do you understand?
Okay. Then after reasoning, the punishment comes.
Oh yes, because you have to understand it has to be made clear to you why I'm doing this. Just like the punishment you talked about. I had this teacher in school. Before she flogs you, she tells you, you know, you did what I don't like. I have asked you not to write in this manner, and I told you that if you write in this manner, I will flog you. So I need you to understand that I love you, but there has to be consequences for your action. And then you show, and she will give you a flog. And in the flogging, she'll be telling you, I love you, and you become a person, blah, blah, blah. Many people don't subscribe to beating children, but I didn't mind because I knew it was coming from a good place. I was warned. So now I have to pay the price for my actions.
You had taken responsibility.
Yeah. For your actions.
Now that is very, very amazing. So moving on, thank God we talked about flogging because I was going to talk about it.
Question.
This one has caused problems.
Yeah.
This one has, I mean, we've seen cases where a teacher flogs a student, the whole back everywhere, you know, and then we've also seen cases where this reasoning together does not work. You know, so first off, what is your take on flogging specifically? And then secondly, when you're dealing with children you cannot reason with. I have seen children like that.
Of course.
I'm sure you have too.
Of course.
When you're dealing with children you cannot reason with. What then is the best approach towards solving their deviant behaviors?
Okay. So, about flogging, that's controversial. And, from the Western perspective, which is what we are now adopting, they believe you have no reason to beat a child. Okay? They believe it's cruelty. But where we grew up, here in Africa, we believe is a form of training. It's actually a deterrent to ill behavior. Okay? So, but I would say if it was actually that bad, our parents wouldn't have turned out the way they were, and we wouldn't have turned out the way we are.
Okay.
I think we're responsible today. I think we're responsible, and I don't think we deviated. I don't think so. And I think we're people the society can be proud of. So that is not bad. However, where I think it gets bad is when you do it to the point of dehumanizing a child. Do you understand? So I remember being flogged as a child, and I don't remember being flogged to the extent that I bled. I don't remember being flogged to the extent that I fainted. You could have like 5 strokes of cane and all that. The essence of the pain, the essence of the flogging is to inflict pain that will act as a deterrent to further ill behavior. So if you're flogged at the buttock, at the hands or something, you remember that pain, okay? And you don't want to do that again. Now, I do know that some people will say there are better ways of doing this. Keep communicating with a child. And there are some children that don't have that level of fear in them. You see, even with that cane, nothing changes. Even with the advice, the support and all that, it still wouldn't do much. At that point in time, you will need the services of a professional who will, maybe a shrink or something, who will take their time to manage this child. People like that are usually exceptional. Okay? Most children, what works for them is either the discipline or punishment. One of these must work. In fact, if you're patient, even that child you think is so bad, The thing is that we're a very impatient set of people, and we don't understand that behavior is communication. If we're patient and understand that behavior is communication, even the child we call very bad, we can manage.
Okay.
We can manage. The thing is, sometimes the right person to talk to this child is not there yet. I give you an instance. One of the schools I visited, they were telling me about this student who happens to be one of their best, but as rude as hell. You know, she challenges everybody, has no friends, nothing. And when I saw the student, one thing I noticed, just like you, she happens to be the last child, happens to be very assertive, happens to be bold, you know, that kind of child. So my first time of actually meeting this child, I said, "Hi, my name is Ndidi Duru." She said, "I can't hear you. Do you mind speaking up?"
No. I wouldn't dare.
And I said, "Oh, my name is Ndidi Duru,
Wow.
the founder of Talk2Solve." She said, "Okay." I said, "What's your name?" I'm going to make up a name to protect her identity. Chidera. I said, "Oh, okay. Chidera, what's your surname?" Ugu. I said, "Oh, so I came to meet you. I've heard about you and I know we can bond." "Why do I need to bond with anybody?" I said, "Well, maybe you're about to meet a new friend or something." "I don't need a friend." That's what she was telling me. And inside of me, I was like, "Oh, wow, that's a bold one."
Looks like she's already on the defense.
Yeah.
Like she sounds very defensive.
Yes.
And I think it has a lot to do with the approach that other
Do you
people had
understand?
used earlier.
And I made sure not to talk about anything serious that day. I said, "Tell me about yourself. I want to play cards with you." "I don't play cards." I said, "That's fine. I play, but can you play for my sake?" I said, "Why are we even doing this?" I said, "Because I want to be friends with you." And she said, "Can I leave?" I said, "Yes, you can." And she left. And the woman said, "This is what I was telling you. This is," I said, don't worry, calm down. She will come around." And then the next time I visited, it was no longer, "Do you mind speaking up?" It was, "Oh my God."
You again.
And I said, "Yes, Ndidi Duru again. How are you?" Said, "Fine." I said, "Okay, how was classes?" And she was loosening up a bit. "I know what you came to do. They told you I'm a bad student. Did they also tell you that I'm a brilliant student?" I said, "Let's talk about your brilliance." I saw your grades. And we're going from there. I built friendship with her. And I said, "I noticed that the first time I came to meet you, you felt I had heard something about you. Do you know the truth? I heard. Guess what? I don't believe it. I'm actually meeting a sweet person. I think you're nice. I think all these things you're putting up a front. So if you don't mind, disarm yourself and let's talk." And she said, "Okay, I don't know why if I talk, they want to shut me down just like my dad does."
Oh dear.
I said, "Okay, go ahead." And she was going on and on and on and on. And by the time she was done, I saw that the communication was actually, why can't I be me? Why can't I say what I want to say? Why do I have to? I deal with this at home and then I come to school again. I can't be myself. And I started talking to her about communication. And I said, guess what? In communication, we have to understand each other. That's one. We have to be respectful about our communication. That's two. We also have to be sensitive to people's life. So what it means is I don't say it exactly the way I feel in my heart because it can come off as
mean or disrespectful.
Mean. And she was listening to me. I said, for instance, imagine if I took somebody's book right now. What would you call me? She said, a thief.
Blunt.
I said, that's very blunt of you.
Yeah.
But listen, we may not use the word thief. We can say, so you left here and I didn't see my book. Would you happen to know where the book is? But you know, if I say, you're a thief, you took my book, give me my book. It even makes it very, it triggers denial in the person. But if you said, so I kept my book here when you left, I think you kind of took my book. Can I have it? And the person gives it to you. You're like, I don't believe you stole my book. I don't think so.
This takes a lot of
You look on your
intentionality, a lot of
That's the word.
slow process. I think it's not
It'll
everybody
take a while.
that strength and time to, you know, take.
That's why I
That's the
said,
thing, patience.
that's why I said discipline involves a lot of patience that our parents don't have. Imagine who has to go to work and you're expecting her to say, why I want you to
I'm not
hurry
being
to the
stressed.
vehicle is that they believe if I slap you, you rush
You
to the
don't know
car.
if I shout at you.
Yeah,
One
you don't have
eye
to
says,
understand
"I'll look at you."
until we get back from work. In fact, some will even come back and doze off. It's only the intentional ones that will
They'll
be like,
come back.
okay, so I gave you a knock before because you were dragging, you were taking your time. I didn't want you to waste my time. And they could be humble enough to say, I'm sorry for hitting you, but don't do it again.
Well, Nigerian parents. Anyways, we have just 1 minute. We have just 1 more minute before this segment is up. So briefly, I mean, she has said all there is to be said, but I'd just like you to now talk to, what would you say to parents? What would you say to parents and teachers in 1 minute concerning
Patience, patience, patience. When you're handling children, patience, it's not an easy thing. And you have to be intentional about this. You must understand that behaviors are communication. That's true. There are some students that you call clingy. What they are asking for is attention. There are some students that are escapist in nature. What they are actually asking for is help. I can't deal with this. So if I can't deal with this, I better run away. Okay. And then there are some students that you see as mean, as, you know, cutting corners. Who are those students? Those are the ones that want to achieve what they want by all means, no matter how it hurts and all that. Okay. We call them tangible gain pursuers. What do you do with them? Patience. They have impulsive character. So as a teacher, be prepared to equip your students with social skills, with communication skills. Explain to them consequences and guide them towards a change. You know, don't always take the decision for them. Okay. Allow them to become accountable, responsible, self-regulation, self-discipline. Again, patience, patience, patience.
Patience is the new word.
And that's my name, actually.
Ndidi, that's true. I mean, it fits you perfectly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you
was
so
very
much,
insightful.
yes.
This was very
Genuine.
mind-blowingly expository.
I think we need more awareness on this topic.
Yeah, we'll
Instead of
probably
persons
talk more
need to
about it.
understand that,
Yeah.
there is so much to this that we need to, you know, let people know more.
Yeah.
Thank you
But
so much.
sorry, I just have to add that punishment is not totally bad. Just to make that clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Mrs. Ndidi Duru, the founder of Talk2Solve. And I mean, if you watched this segment and you you obviously took home something, especially if you're a parent, especially if you handle children, if you have children around you, you must make it a point to be patient with them, try to study their characters and try to effectively communicate with them. And on that note, we're wrapping up this segment. Up next on the AM Weekend Show is another very powerful conversation. We'll be diving into the world of small business owners to find out what it really takes to become our own boss. I mean, we talk about this a lot, being our own boss. And I mean, we need to deep dive into the reality after this short break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.